Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back again. This is Ray Walters. When we gaze at the night sky, most of us wonder if we're alone, but few take that question and turn it into a roadmap for our survival. Jonathan Jiang is a senior research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory with over 300 scientific papers and 3 NASA medals to his name. He helps guide Mars exploration goals and studies how our planet and our species fit into the bigger cosmic puzzle. Philip Rosen built a successful career in the energy industry before turning his focus to independent research on how civilizations evolve and what it takes for them to survive. Together, they explore how we can avoid the catastrophic hurdles that may end most civilizations before they ever reach the stars. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Jiang and Philip Rosen, authors of Avoiding the Great Filter, Illuminating Pathways to Humanity's Future in the Cosmos. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Jonathan, Philip.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry, my cell phone was ringing, but I turned it silent. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Congratulations in getting this book published. I know this is not something new. I know you've published a lot of literature in the past. Your book, Avoiding the Great Filter, Illuminating Pathways to Humanity's Future in the Cosmos, to me is very interesting. There are concepts introduced in here. Now, I want to go ahead and ask you questions about this book without giving away too much. Now, Jonathan, Philip, what first sparked your interest in tackling the mystery of why we seem to be alone in such a vast universe?
Very interesting question. And this is the biggest questions we ask ourselves. Where is humanity headed and why? And what might we discover? This is the question. And also, what might discover us? This is the question, and always in my mind since my childhood.
Right.
Yep. And if I could add to that, and thank you again, Ray, for having us on your show and to all your many, many listeners, the audience. The question is a very profound one. We are the first species, at least of this world, that's able to begin answering that. There's been 100 million plus species or more that have lived and died on Earth. Some of them are still with us, including humanity. But we're the only ones who have been able to formulate this question and begin to answer it. And it really goes to our long-term purpose and our future in the cosmos.
All right. So in your book, there are concepts in there. Obviously, the first question I ask you, that questioning sort of ourselves if we are alone or not, that's Fermi paradox. But there's also another concept that you've introduced, and this is the great filter. Now, for those new to the term, what exactly is the great filter, and why should we care about it today?
Yeah, the great filter and is a concept first was described and by Robin Hanson in 1990s, and it actually refers to the barriers that life must overcome and to develop and beyond our home planet. And can we survive? Okay, that's the barrier. What barriers? And so we want to overcome.
So these barriers, to add on to that, they can really fall into two very broad categories. One are natural barriers, just the conditions are not right to create life, to have life come about or sustain it or allow it the time to evolve. Or life may evolve to a fairly high extent, but then be wiped out by a natural phenomenon. Classic asteroid striking a planet, a very large asteroid or comet, and creating widespread destruction and die-off, as what happened most recently 66 million years ago, when the dinosaurs and about 75% of all species were wiped out. But again, getting back to the very current time and our species in particular, humanity, we are the first species to actually contribute possibly to these filters by creating catastrophes of our own. We don't need an asteroid or super volcanoes or some other natural event. We can wipe ourselves out now. That's been our capacity since 1945. However, the technology that's brought us to this point is also the technology that can see us through to not just survival, but to thrive in the larger cosmos. So it's a very intricate question with a lot of intricacies and possibilities in its solutions.
Right. Let's explore this a little bit further. So you have the Great Filter, and you've already given an example on how a civilization can wipe itself out. And listening to this concept, it does make sense. If we look back at history, and we can see what these things are that is encompassed or can be categorized as a great filter. Now, what do you think is humanity's biggest self-made risk that could keep us from ever becoming a spacefaring civilization?
Yeah, talking about self-made risk. People always talk about, you see things like climate change, environmental disasters, and maybe AI, artificial intelligence. But and also there's one thing people talk about but sometimes overlooked is the large-scale nuclear wars, and and it can easily wipe us out. And so this is the I think it remains the greatest self-made risk.
All right.
And again, to add to that, I want to go back to something you mentioned in your question, Ray. You said becoming a spacefaring race. Actually, we're already beginning that. We've already taken the first tentative steps. We've gone beyond our atmosphere, the only species of Earth to ever do that. We visited another world, the nearest one to us, the moon, and we've sent our robotic probes all over the solar system and even verged very slightly into interstellar space
Yes.
with Voyager 1. So
Voyager 1. Yes.
we're actually have taken the first tentative steps out there, quote unquote. But what could stop us from going further? These threats that Jonathan mentioned, the ones that are within our control, AI and if malevolent AI, pandemics, if we don't control that, and of course, maybe the most acute one would be nuclear warfare. A large-scale exchange would not wipe out humanity entirely, I don't think, but it would set us back
Right.
centuries. And that would be a very, very terrible thing. All our progress to this point will have gone for naught. So these are the things that we can control. But beyond that, we have controls. We're beginning to get controls, countermeasures to some natural threats. And again, going back to the asteroid striking Earth, it was just back in late 2022, I believe, that the DART mission, Double Asteroid Redirect Test mission, a very big, very successful mission, nudged as a test case, a field test case, a very small asteroid slightly aside that was nearly 7 million miles from Earth. Now, this asteroid posed no threat to us at all and never would, but it was a test case, a field demonstration case of how we have the ability now. We are very quickly developing the ability, the agency to fend off threats from nature. And what wiped out the dinosaurs doesn't necessarily have to wipe us out if that were ever to threaten us. We now have the ability to guard against that, and that ability is developing very quickly.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan and Philip. Let's try to bridge the past and the future here. Your book combines lessons from evolution and history. How do they help us see our place in the cosmos differently?
Yeah, our documented history, and clearly shows, our human society, our use of tools, of technology and science had advanced and over the last 5,000 plus years. And we learn a lot, society rise and fall. And using these lessons and along with our new tools developed like AI, informations, and so we can now better understand humanity's potential futures. And we can see, and how we can evolve into the next.
And picking up on what Jonathan just said about tool usage, we are not the only species here on Earth to use tools. There are some other species that are clever enough to utilize a stick or a rock or some other implement in their environment to a purpose. Our advantage, our advance, going back many tens of thousands of years ago, was to close the iterative loop on tool making. Our far ancestors, our distant ancestors, used one tool, say a sharpened edge of a rock, to create another tool, a spear. And from that, we use our tools to create better versions of the first tool or a tool for a different purpose. An iterative cycling loop that has rolled our species up technologically to the present day. So sharpened rocks and sharpened sticks and simple implements made from the immediate environment, we've evolved that, to use that evolution word, throughout our history, all the way up to the present, where we're now dropping rovers onto Mars, as one shining example.
That was particularly interesting. Us, exploring Mars, and I've seen footages of that and pictures. That's very, very interesting. Jonathan, Philip, we often hear about climate change or pandemics, but for you guys, which threat do you feel is most overlooked in everyday conversation?
I think the climate change and pandemics receive much attention, significant attention.
Yes.
And now on the shorter time scales, I'm talking about, and next 10 or 100 years, still the risk of large scale nuclear conflicts, so-called World War III, and it's often overlooked in daily conversations. On a very large time scale, let's say like 1,000 years, and I think the asteroid impact, and you see if not every year, every once in a while you'll hear the news, the asteroid, zip by the Earth. Sometimes it's closer than the moon. And in the space, for example, between the Mars orbit and Jupiter's orbit, there's asteroid belt. And they are in the stable and orbit, but because the Mars, Earth, and Jupiter is moving around the sun, so there's a gravitational push and pull. Sooner or later, some asteroid may lose the stability. They are and coming towards us. And that may happen if you think in very long time scales. So And NASA at JPL, actually, they have a group, they are monitoring and those asteroids. Okay. So again, the nuclear wars and is still a threat, and we can wipe us out. And other than that, things like, even the super volcanic eruptions and the asteroid zipped by the Earth, that's still the threat to us.
Philip, you want to go ahead and add to that?
Sure. So Jonathan covered that very, very well. But there's a tendency to kind of tumble into a gloom and doom mindset here, that all these bad things are happening and threatening around us, and we're sort of heading for a cliff. This is not the case. We take a very optimistic, I think a realistically optimistic tact in our book and in our research, that although we have these challenges, we also have the ability to overcome them. And getting coming back to the nuclear threat, which is a very immediate threat, the number of warheads between the superpowers, that number topped out back in around the mid 1980s, and it's been declining since. Now, there are still a great many nuclear weapons around the world. I think there's about 9 or so countries that have them. But this threat is not as it's not quite as bad, shall we say, as it might have been back in the middle to latter part of the 20th century during the height of the Cold War. We've had nuclear weapons for 80 years now. It's just coming upon the 80th anniversary, in fact, this month, 80th anniversary of Trinity. They have not been used since 1945, although there's a lot of them around. So that speaks well. We've gotten through a full human lifespan, approximately 80 years, without deploying these weapons anywhere since August of 1945. So that speaks well that we have controls over this, international controls on it, and sometimes we have to get a little more direct with that, but we're keeping the lid on, and we are going in the right direction there. So I don't want to just say that it's hopeful. We have reason to be optimistic.
All right. So we see how vulnerable our society is, in our planet too. We have wars and rumors of wars escalating, de-escalating. There's one happening right now. We all know that if you look into the news, and how valuable our planet is. And the reason why I want to go ahead and bring this up is that I want to have a different perspective of Earth. So how does exploring distant planets and searching for extraterrestrial life change how we look after Earth? Because I know we've been looking at exoplanets out there. There are planets that are quite similar in size with that of Earth, has the same environment. So can we talk about how this thing affects the way we look after our very own planet?
I think if we find the life elsewhere, okay, beyond the Earth, and even the simple life like microbes, okay, and that will change our perspective. And we are part of a large living universe, and the universe was populated. Okay, this will bring out some urgencies and some need, and to understand the life beyond the Earth. Okay, if there's a life beyond the Earth, and what are they? That comes up some other question: how they evolved, and are they intelligent, and whether or not they can come to visit us. Now, on the other hand, if we find nothing over the years, and over the next few years or in the future, it will underscore how unique and precious the Earth's life truly is. I think either way, the lessons for carrying our home planet And through this study, it's very powerful lessons. It's important to understand ourselves.
Right.
Yes, and Ray, you mentioned exoplanets. So this is a field of study that has absolutely exploded in the last couple of decades, since beginning really in the early 1990s. There's around 6,000 confirmed exoplanets that have been found so far, and several thousand more candidates that are undergoing analysis of the data. Uh, Now, among them, most of what we found so far, put simply, they're too hot, they're too cold
Yeah.
for life. It would not be very likely to have liquid water on their surface as we call a typical prerequisite for considering habitability. However, several percent, maybe up to 5%, of these worlds appear to orbit their host stars in the host star's habitable zone. It's the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold. Liquid water could exist on the surface of these worlds if there is a significant atmosphere. An atmosphere, it doesn't have to be exactly Earth-like, but it needs to be in approximations to an Earth-like atmosphere, at least in density and some compositional matters. So there are habitable or very potentially habitable worlds out there. Whether or not there is any life on these worlds is not a whole other question that we're trying to answer from remote, very remote observations. And there are very clever techniques going on with our space-based instruments mainly to try and figure this out. We've gotten some interesting results in recent years, but a lot more analysis, data collection and analysis, and even better instrumentation is needed to answer it. But coming back to your question about what makes Earth special, if we find that life is either nowhere's out there or it's extremely rare and very primitive when it is there, just microbes, then Earth becomes utterly unique in effect, and a place where very complex life can develop, complex enough to ask and answer these questions. If we find a more populated cosmos, well, that would be very, very interesting in and of itself, wouldn't it? We'd find that we're one among many, and even though interstellar distances and the limitations of physics, the speed of light, would keep physical visits into the very, very distant future, if ever, and radio transmissions would make for rather long conversations. Still, the finding of life out there would be profound. It would be transformative for the way we view ourselves, the way we view our planet. But in any case, we know, at least from our solar system, Earth is truly a set-aside world, unlike any of the other planets in our solar system. Earth life thrives here tremendously, and we're still scratching around on Mars trying to find a microbe.
Right.
So,
True. True. Related to the previous question I asked, and since you mentioned about interstellar travel, some people feel it's unrealistic to imagine humanity spreading to other planets. What will you say to that skepticism?
It's an interesting topic to discuss. And I recall my father told me when I was little, when my father dating my mother, and my father said, hey, and in the future, we're going to go to the moon, okay, landing on the moon, okay. Maybe, in the future, we can, have a travel to the moon. Okay. My mother didn't believe it. Okay, this is wow, it's just joking. Okay, and yet, and when I went to kindergarten, okay, as a tiny baby, human already landing on the moon. Okay, 1969, and when I was began to go to schools. I remember my father was listening to Voice of America during that time, and my father said, hey, there's a spacecraft going to fly out of solar system, going to visit Jupiter's moon, the Voyager spacecraft. So advancement is so fast. Nowadays, the Voyager spacecraft is already flying out of solar system, and not only human landed on the moon, and our instrument landed on the Mars quite a few times. And so advancement is pretty fast. Okay, and that showcase the human creativities and human innovations. And that said, I think history shows, okay, if you bet against human creativity, usually it's a losing bet. And we are creators, and we are tool makers, and so that is, it's not whether or not we are going to go to another planet, and it's the trend, and it's our intention, and our creativity leads us there. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just put a little bit of quantification to it. What has been this identifiably human in terms of evolution, we go back maybe 2.5 million years, according to archaeological evidence from East Africa. 2.5 million years we've been walking this world. Yet in just the last 68, less than an average human lifespan, we've gone from, we started putting up satellites in 1957, and we've gone all the way to walking on into the world, as Jonathan mentioned, and interstellar, steps into interstellar space, visiting every planet in this solar system with our robotic probes. And we have realistic plans to put boots on Mars now. This is not science fiction anymore. This is science planning. We're into the early planning stages of this. Perhaps in the late 2030s, I would think, be rather disappointed if we don't have boots on Mars by the 2040s. So the notion that well, we're just never going to get there, it's too far. No, where our technology is accelerating extraordinarily quickly, and very recent turns of events, such as artificial intelligence, that allows for the first time a highly sophisticated assistant intelligence. There's another acronym for AI, assistant intelligence, to aid in our quest to go further. So we have a powerful partner here, and we have all the resources we need here on Earth. We can get to Mars, and if we can get to Mars, in terms of a crewed spaceship, astronauts on board a vehicle, but we can go further still. We can visit the asteroid belt and beyond. As far as going into interstellar space, that is a truly enormous leap. If you just, again, to try and quantify that very briefly, if we were to shrink the distance from Earth to the moon, a distance that humans have traveled already, if we were to shrink that down into just 1 inch,
yeah,
how far would be the distance from Earth to the nearest star other than our sun, Proxima Centauri, 4.24 light years away? How far would it be in this vastly scaled down hypothetical universe? Well, it would still be about the distance, I believe, between Houston and San Francisco, about 1,600 miles. So if Earth to the moon is 1 inch, you still have to go 1,600 miles just to get to the nearest star, not even ones beyond that. But there is no theoretical limitations on the ability to do this. There is no laws of physics that says no, you can't go. Just found technological challenges.
Okay, if I can add to that, I remember about a year ago, so JPL had a town hall meeting. Our lab director, is asking on a town hall meeting, and what we should do next. Okay, and so JPL was established 1936. By 2036, it's going to be 100 years birthday. Okay. So, and after some back and forth, I remember, and I suggested one which, many people at JPL, they agree. That is, by 2036, we should lay out our next goals, our goal for the next 100 years. One of the goals for next 100 years for JPL is to develop technology so we can reach Proxima b, okay, which is the planet and orbiting the stars closest to us. And people here engineering feel, yes, we can do that in the next 100 years. And it's one of the goals for humanity to reach for the stars.
Okay. Speaking of human creativity always, if not most of the time, results to an innovation. And then we have technological innovation right now, left and right. Why do you believe technological innovation can be both our great threat and our greatest hope?
Yes, we just talked about the nuclear weapons can wipe us out, and also something like climate change can alter the climate, endanger us. And our history clearly demonstrates, clearly show these dual natures of technology can benefit us, can sometimes can harm us. And look at the recent years, if I can see, we move very quickly from early rockets to the complicated weather satellites, and also moon landings, Mars rovers, and interstellar probes. In my view, if humans use technology wisely, thoughtfully, we can do critical things. We can let the technology not only benefit us, can use technology to protect us from the threats. Okay, yes, there's a dual nature, but we got to use technology thoughtfully.
Right. Philip?
Yeah, and touching on a point made earlier, a stunning field demonstration of this again was the DART mission, in which we were actually able to nudge an asteroid slightly in its orbit. If there was a threatening space rock coming at us, all you would need to do, if you could contact it far enough away, is nudge it very, very slightly, slam a vehicle into it, an uncrewed spaceship into it, like we did with DART in 2022, and move it very, very slightly. And over the long course of millions of miles that space rock would travel to get near Earth, it would now miss us. Earth is not a very big target, as it turns out. We're only about 8,000 miles wide in diameter. So you don't have to nudge something that coming at us by very much to have it miss us. You don't need to blow it to smithereens. That might look good up in the movies and in cinema, and might put people in the seats in the theater. But you don't have to do anything quite that dramatic. All you got to do is nudge it just a tiny bit, and we've proven that we can do that. Imagine T-Rex 66 million years ago. I don't know, looked up in the sky, saw a strange light, and didn't think anything of it. Didn't have enough of a brain to think anything of it. Certainly couldn't do anything about it. And he and his dinosaur colleagues' reign ended very shortly thereafter.
All right. Jonathan, Philip, what's nice about your book is that it doesn't dwell in doom. So my question is, what keeps you hopeful about our chances to survive and thrive?
Yeah, I think survive and thrive is in our DNA. Okay, it's by our nature. We want to survive. We want to thrive. That said, humans are fundamentally builders, explorers, innovators. We are not fundamentally destroyers. No, we are not. We're always seeking to improve ourselves and expand our horizon. This makes human unique, makes human different. Just as early human, our ancestors move out South Africa, Southeast Africa, we become multi-continental species. And for now, we think, at least I think, if our ancestors didn't move, they stay in East Africa, we probably won't have today. Okay, same as now. If we always not moving, okay, not to go out of the atmosphere to go to explore, we are living on this tiny dot with limited resources. Okay, this is not good for us. So I think now we are ready to move beyond the Earth to explore the new worlds. So
Right.
I think that said, I'm very optimistic, about the futures.
Philip, what
Yes,
keeps you optimistic?
absolutely. And another innovation that we have here as a species who is very good at innovating, generally for good, is we have now over half the human race has access to the entire breadth of human knowledge, 5,200 years of documented civilization. Over half of the population of the world, not just the U.S. but the world, can now, literally at their fingertips, pull up anything and everything that they want to know about the world and about our
Yeah.
history and about how to do something, how to build things, how to fix things. This is and that number is increasing rapidly with time. It's around 60% right now, I believe, and that's only going north. It's going to go asymptotically towards the entire world population over the next decade or
Mhm.
two. So with that, we have all these human minds, all these human brains, these clever, clever brains that we have now are not limited anymore by, well, they just don't have the knowledge. They can't get to the knowledge base. The library of the world has come to them, wherever they may be. And with all these minds thinking and innovating and
Yeah.
considering, we've brought to bear human resources as
Mm.
never before. So I am very, very hopeful. Jonathan and I are very, very hopeful that our better nature is going to be in charge here.
Yeah, that said, the reason for optimistic is, the knowledge and technology human invented can help protect us, can help us move forward, and to better future.
All right. The concept of great filter. Can we really work together at that scale? What role does global cooperation play in avoiding the great filter?
Hmm. And I think global cooperation is very possible, even during the height of Cold War. During the height of Cold War, I remember it's 1970s. Soviets and American astronauts actually they connected in space. Okay, they are working together. Now think about international space stations. And so there's conflicts between Russia and the U.S. But the astronaut, okay, from Russia, from U.S., from many other countries, they're living together. This is a good example of international cooperation. I think it's still possible.
Mm,
And I truly believe, and so the world becomes smaller, and our information, our internet, our technology connect us together. So that's is going to be the trend, going to be the future. And so you have instant access to the informations around the world.
mhm.
So international cooperation, global cooperation is highly, it's not only possible, it's the trend.
Yes, and why do we have conflict down here on Earth? We do mostly. It's about generational issues and fighting over resources.
Yeah.
The resources here on Earth, while enormous, are not unlimited, and we've been to every continent. We know where all these resources, metals and oil and gas
Yeah.
and other useful things, are located. But up above, there are tremendous resources to be had out in the solar system and beyond. Now, getting to them is a big challenge, but that's where the relief from the competition for resources, including livable land or habitable land, ultimately is going to get solved. And getting back to the International Space Station, we're coming up on an anniversary this November. It's going to be 25 years continuously crewed for the ISS, and and internationally crewed, and that speaks extremely well to how we behave when we're in an environment where really you have to behave. Up there in space, you can't be knocking heads with each other. Um, there's vacuum and radiation and extremes in temperature. a couple inches on the other side of that thin hole that you're living in up there. You can't be fighting with each other in that environment. So while we may be at odds with each other down here in a very accommodating physical environment, up there, there's no room for that nonsense. And this is something that it's a challenge, a technical challenge, and one we'll carry forward as we strive to establish a foothold on the moon and then further on to Mars and beyond. But it's a kind of a good challenge to have. It's a good problem to have because it forces us to cooperate. And that's what is really the goal here. No one country can spread out into the solar system on its own. It's just too expensive. It's too risky. When you have something that's very costly, very resource demanding, and very intensive in a number of ways, you bring in partners to do it. The space station, again, it was originally going to be Space Station Freedom, as envisioned by the U.S. back in the 1980s. That got too expensive. So back to the drawing board, and we come up with the ISS starting in the late 1990s, and here we are with a successful space station and successors in the planning stages. So we have demonstrated our ability to cooperate, and that cooperation will be absolutely paramount as we step over.
All right. If you gentlemen, if you could leave your readers with just one idea to carry forward, what would you want it to be?
Yeah, I think we human are living, our generation, we are living in a special time. Humanity actually is better off, much better off today than any previous times in the history. Most people here, as Philip mentioned, we have access to thousands of years accumulated knowledge. And so we have information, we have a knowledge we can find online, find on the internet, of information technology empowering us to reach nearly unlimited possibilities in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology, and as of today. And of course, we are restricted by the laws of physics. And that said, our generation have great opportunities and into the future. And although we have problems here and there, and but humans do get better.
Agreed.
And to perhaps tie that up in a bow, or attempt to, my message would be: lose the gloom and doom. We are better off today as a species. We are better off today, right now, here, July 2025, than we have ever been. A smaller percentage of humanity is living in poverty right now than any time in history. More people have access to clean water and electricity right now than ever before. And we've talked about access to knowledge a couple times here. Don't need to go over that ground again. We are in a better place, species-wise, right now, today, than we have ever been. And we are going in the right direction. The road is bumpy, for sure, but we are going in the right direction. Lose the doom and gloom.
All right. Jonathan, Philip, where can a curious mind start if they want to explore these big questions more deeply?
Okay. I'm a scientist. As a scientist, I always thinking scientifically. Curious mind can start by reading books or reading papers, especially those peer-reviewed papers on the reputable science journals like Science, Nature, and Galaxy and Earth and Space Science. By reading that paper, those are really frontiers of knowledge, and by brightest mind in the world, and those scientists like me, and bright mind on the world, they regularly publish research on many fascinating subjects. Those are people, if you are really curious, and about big questions, read papers.
And of course, with the ability, accessibility of knowledge that we have now, those materials are readily available like never before. You don't have to go into the stacks, the back rooms of a dusty library someplace and try to dig these things out. You just pull up your phone. You sit down in front of your laptop, and in a couple of clicks, and bang, you're there in front of whatever interests you. And there is an all but inexhaustible supply. So it's readily accessible, and I'd encourage people, as your interest dictates, to go and seek out these peer-reviewed journal publications, as Jonathan has mentioned.
Well, actually, what a better starting point for curious minds actually is to grab a copy of your book. Where can they actually get one if they're interested to do so?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. And so we try to, I always try to communicate with people. Try to let even non-science people to understand science. And so that's one of my passions, and also the reasons. And I wrote this book with Philip.
Philip, where can they get
Yes.
a copy of your book?
Well, it's available as an ebook online. Amazon is one of the very major publishers of online materials, or carriers of online materials. But our publisher, Archway, has its own site for obtaining the book, and it also can be ordered through more traditional book vendors. So it is generally available.
All right. Jonathan, Philip, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for discussing your book with us, for sparing us your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray, and thank you again to all your many listeners.
All right. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self-publishing, one indie author at a time.